Big today. My name is 24. So glad that you're on with us this morning. Elizabeth was a little bit under the weather, so keep her in your prayers. She'll be fine. Just sometimes we go through some junk and she'll get through that, but she's got a speaking engagement coming up this week. So we just lift her up so she will be feeling good and refreshed and restored and being able to minister and teach a large group of people. And so, anyway, if you would put your prayer request and your praise reports in the chat box, that would be awesome. We'll join you in prayer and just, man, it's always great to be uh, with you, in an honor and all of that whenever we're praying. And I ask a prayer for to cover some of us. We're getting ready to go on a missions trip with All Star Missions. There's some Dream Big girls, and several of us are joining with them, and we're going to Las Vegas here in about 2 weeks to minister to people there. And so I've never been, and so this will be interesting. I'm looking forward to it, but we really would like your prayers to cover us and just ward off any of those attacks from the enemy. And so I don't have time for all of my devotion today, but I just want to give you this little tidbit in a reminder as you're getting up every morning, getting ready for work, school, your day, whatever you do. Remind yourself that you have been clothed in the garments of salvation. When you put your clothes on, just let that be something that reminds you. And because you wear the robe of righteousness, don't forget to do that because we're on our way to heaven. Isn't that awesome to think? I'm being clothed in the garments of salvation every time you put something on. Just let that be a great thing. Uh, oh, thank you, Cassie. Yes, we definitely for the mission trip we definitely need. I think there's about 30 ladies going all together, and so we're gonna storm the streets. Can you just imagine? Okay, so welcome Sue, Dee, Cassie, Angel, Donna, Eileen. Eileen's back. Randy, Cheryl, Karen, Debbie. Tara, I don't know if I missed you, I'm sorry, but if you haven't been on before and you're new, put your name or put hi or something in the chat box so we can get acquainted with you virtually. Okay, so today we are in Exodus 23:14 through 25:40. And for the Old Testament, this is the 1 year Bible, and we read a little bit of Old Testament, New Testament, Psalms, and Proverbs every day. And here we're already over a month into reading the Bible this year. And it just, time flies whenever you're jumping into it. And I don't ever have enough time for what I'm reading. And that's kind of like today. I read over this first part yesterday and I thought, man, I didn't get anything out of it. Well, after I read over it, I prayed, I read, and then it starts to pop. That happens whenever you pray before you read. So we're gonna jump into this right now. Um, it begins talking about the annual feast, and that's kind of where I got stuck because I'm just, I mean, you just hear all of these different names about the feast, and how, I mean, my mind wanders whenever I start reading this. And so I start, what I normally do is I Google. And so I found a sheet that talks about the feast of the Lord. And so I was able to write on it and just kind of pull it all together. And so today we're going to be talking, or it mentions three feasts: the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of the Harvest, and the Feast of Ingathering. So now then, I've heard all of that before. But the Feast of Unleavened Bread is also Feast of Weeks and Feast of Pentecost. And I thought, well, that's how come I'm getting confused, because I'm hearing so many different things. And then the first fruits is also, or in gathering is first fruits, or festival of shelters, or tabernacles. Today it's called, if I can even say this right, Succoth. Um, and then, how come I didn't write that down? Oh, I guess I did. So we've got unleavened bread, harvest, and ingathering. But the thing about it is, God gave all of these kind of instructions to us. And Paul writes about the laws in 1 Timothy 1:8 through the end of that section. If you read that, I mean, the laws was for us to stay on track. Of course, that's what a law would be, but just to stay in your lane. So now then, I'm going to jump on down to verse 20. I'm going to skip some of the other stuff about the foods. I just can't get into that one today. But in verse 20, it says, "See, I am sending an angel before you to protect you on your journey and lead you safely to the place I've prepared for you today." That's a promise for us too. He gives us safe journeys when we start the day with him. We lean on him. I'm sending an angel before you. Um, and who is this angel? As we're reading about it, it says in 22. No. Let me go back. 21. Pay close attention to him and obey his instructions. Do not rebel against him, for he is my representative and he will not forgive your rebellion. Boy, he's got a lot of power, right? So this angel most likely is a manifestation of God. God was in the angel the same way he was present in the pillars of cloud and fire. My name is in him, is what he says, means the essential nature of power of God were made known to this angel. He sends angels like that for us too. And maybe we need to focus on that too, and just know that he is always with us. He's always in the mix of everything that we're doing. So it gives all of those instructions. Be careful to obey him. For my angel will go before you to bring you into the land of the Amorites. I'm going to have to get my other Bible up. And then 25 says, you must serve only the Lord your God. And if you do, I will bless you with food and water. And I will protect you from illness. And I mean, that's all pertinent today too, folks. That's exactly what we should be doing. Oh goodness. I got so many notes here. I'm so excited. I can't hardly wait to tell you everything that I've got. So then he says in verse 27, I will send my terror ahead of you and create panic among the people whose land you invade. I will make all your enemies turn and run. I will send terror, which some things say hornet, ahead of you to drive out the Hivites, Canaanites, Hittites. But here's the fun thing. But I will not drive them out in a single year, because the land would become so desolate and the wild animals would multiply and threaten you. I will drive them out a little at a time until your population has increased enough to take possession of the land. See, I watched a documentary yesterday talking about animals and multiplying. And you may have seen this. This was interesting to me. Have you ever heard of the cocaine hippos of Colombia? So Pablo Escobar back in the 1980s, of course, he's making billions of dollars and selling drugs. And so he's got this massive compound, and he's bought 4 hippos. And so he's got them all in his little, lake and all that kind of stuff. Well, times, years fly by. He's no longer, but the place is still there. These hippos have multiplied. There's like oh, currently they think 170, and they can't control them. They're dangerous. They have no predators. So they're loving it because they're just eating and multiplying, and they are dangerous. And so if they can't control them by 2035, there could be 1,000 in an area that shouldn't have anything like that. Doesn't man mess stuff up? So I thought, man, who in the world would want to have some kind of an animal like that? He did some kind of like his own personal zoo, but you can't get you. How do you get rid of a hippo? They've tried to uh, oh, what do I want to say? Shoot him with a dart to tranquilize him, as I was losing my words. And anyway, they can't, they're so big, they can't tranquilize them enough to even try to sterilize the animals. It is the craziest thing I ever saw. But anyway, that was the little rabbit hole I went down. Just talking about the land would become so full of wild animals that threatened the people. So it was a gradual process. Canaan was a gift from God, but Canaan was a process. So uh, let's go on. In verse 31, and I will fix your boundaries from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, and from the eastern wilderness to the Euphrates River. I will hand over to you the people now living in the land, and you will drive them out ahead of you. Make no treaties. Now see, he's letting them know, here's how you should live. They must not live in your land, or they will cause you to sin against them. Well, that all sounds really good to them right now, until later. So the Lord has instructed Moses to come up to him. So he brings along his people, 70 elders, as well as Aaron and Aaron's sons. So these instructions start with Moses. Um, and so as far as my little notes here, I got to read this because this is good too. They start with Moses, Aaron and his sons, and 70 elders. The 4 men are named here, and 4 is a number of global significance. 70 elders, 70 speaks to the nations. This was all global significance. They will see and worship from a distance, which will be an unbelievable and undeniable experience. So in verse 2, only Moses is allowed to come near the Lord. So he goes up. It says in 3, Moses went down to the people and repeated all the instructions and regulations the Lord had given him. All the people answered with one voice, we will do everything the Lord has commanded. One voice. They were in unity at this time. And the word of the Lord is supernatural, and he can speak to everybody in that group for them to understand, even though maybe they could have been in different languages, but they all united as one. And I love that. So then, oh man, let's jump on over here to let's go to number 7. We're going to see again that he took the book of the covenant, read it aloud, and again the second time. Highlight that. The second time they say, we will do everything the Lord has commanded. We will obey. So now let's drop on down to Oh, I've got to skip a bunch of this, folks, and I don't want to. But verse 12, then the Lord said to Moses, come up to me on the mountain, stay there. I will give you the tablets of stone on which I have inscribed the instructions and commands, so you can teach the people. Moses and his assistant Joshua set out, and Moses climbed up the mountain of God. So Joshua began as Moses' assistant, but would become the great leader God used to bring Israel to the promised land. Joshua went with Moses for a distance, and there waited 6 days when Moses was called higher to a personal and private interview with God. So Moses told the elders, stay here and wait. If anyone has a dispute while I'm gone, consult them. Take care of all of that. I'm going to be gone. He doesn't have any idea how long he's going to be gone. But he climbs up the mountain, and the cloud covered it. And the glory of God settled down on Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. This is the Shekinah, Shem, if I even said any of that right, the glorious dwelling presence of God. 6 days. This is all the outcome of the grace of God. When we reach that pinnacle of worshiping in the very presence of God, we don't need anything. God's presence alone sustains us 6 days. Then on the 7th day, the Lord called Moses from inside the cloud to the Israelites at the foot of the mountain. The glory of the Lord appeared at the summit like a consuming fire. And then look at 18. Moses disappeared into the cloud. As he climbed higher up the mountain, he remained on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. So on the 7th day, this is when God makes a covenant with those who came out of Egypt, those who were part of the redeemed community through the blood of the Lamb, the first Passover lamb. And so 40 days he remains and 40 nights. 40 is the number for testing. Was this a test for Moses? But I don't think so. If it was, Moses passed his test. If it was for the people, they didn't pass their test so well. But in creation, God created everything in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested. This is like they did all of this stuff for 6 days, and then Moses got to come on the 7th day up on the higher with his relationship with God, and he got to spend quality personal time with God for 40 days and 40 nights. I think that is absolutely amazing. So it was like a greater experience by himself. Okay, I finished all that note. Then he gives him in 25, starts talking about building the getting everything ready for the temple. And so you see everything is mentioned. I mean, it's so specific. He's talking about the gold and the silver and the bronze and all of the different colors, all of the different textures, colors, everything that you can imagine. It's got the dimensions, how to do it. Moses is absorbing all of this and writing all of this down. And I am I'm always amazed at Moses whenever he's able to come back down and give all of this information to everybody so they can build it. And one of the things I heard somebody talk about, which, when we bounce back to verse 14 and it says, talks about Aaron and Hur are going to be there with you. Well, and I hadn't made this connection before, but Bezalel, that was the great craftsman, is a grandson of Hur. So that was a fun connection to make. But back to Moses, I don't think I could make all of that. I couldn't remember. I have to go back and listen to something a couple of times so I can remember everything that it said. So, we're just glad that I wasn't in those days. But I think God would have gave me supernatural memory for that. Okay, so now then, let's jump over real quick. I would go back over and read that today because that is such good reading in with Exodus on the mountain and all of the people around, and we'll see how which when they said, "Oh, we'll do everything you say," keep that in mind as we read forward. Okay, so Matthew 24, we're continuing on in the Olivet Discourse, and so we start at Matthew 24:29 through 51. I'll get my finger on my page here. Okay, so immediately after the anguish of those days, talking about the end, the sun will be darkened, the moon will give no light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then at last, the sign that the Son of Man is coming will appear in the heavens, and there will be deep mourning among the peoples of the earth, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds with power and glory. So the nations of the earth will mourn because the believers will suddenly realize they've chosen the wrong side. Oh, unbelievers. The unbelievers will suddenly realize they've chosen the wrong side. Everything they have scoffed about will be happening, and it'll be too late. And that's the sad thing about what's going on today, when everybody's wanting to do whatever they want to do anytime, anywhere, any place, with no regards to the morality of it. Jesus can come back at any time. We read the Bible, we study the Bible, and it probably doesn't look like it's today, but who knows? Once that happens, you can't change your mind. What you've chosen, how you've chosen to live in eternity, is already carved in stone. And then I like verse 34. It says, "I tell you the truth, this generation will not pass from the scene until all of these things take place. Heaven and earth will disappear, but my words will never disappear." And then in 36, I've underlined that. "However, no one knows the day and hour when these things will happen, not even the angels in heaven or the Son of Man here. Only the Father knows." So what do we do? We get saved, we stay in the house and don't go out so we don't sin anywhere. We don't do something wrong. We don't do that. Heaven is not our only goal. We have work to do here. And that's one of the reasons why we're going on a mission trip to Las Vegas. We can do a mission trip within our own town, within our own state, and we do. That's why we have retreats. That's why we invite people into our homes. That's why we do whatever we do for the kingdom. But we got to keep doing it until we die, or until we see the unmistakable return of the Savior. Our job is not to stay in the house with a blanket covered up over us so we won't do something wrong. There's people out there that will only be able to receive because the connection they have with you, they trust you and they believe what you say. And what if you walk past them and never talk to them about salvation? When the Son of Man returns, it will be like it was in Noah's day. When Noah's day, when the flood came, everybody was doing everything that they wanted to do. They had no regard for anything else, nothing, not at all for God. They probably slept in on Sunday mornings. They probably never opened their Bible. They probably never worshiped. They didn't realize what was going to happen until the flood came and swept them away. And I read a story about somebody reading the flood story to their little one, and the little one said, "Well, did God sweep away all of the kids?" And she said, "Yes, they did. The parents never took them to church or taught them the word. They were all part, they were just living their own life the way they saw fit." And it's just so important that we expose our children and train them up in the way they should go. And then it says in 40, 2 men will be working together in the field, one will be taken and one will be left. 2 women will be grinding flour in the mill, one will be taken and the other will be left. 2 people will be standing at the gas pump putting gas in their vehicle, and one will be taken and one will be left. His second coming will be swift and sudden. No opportunity for a last minute repentance. You can't bargain with him. The choice we make today is going to be our eternal destiny. So what choices are you making? So he says in 42, you too must keep watch, for you don't know what day your Lord is coming. Understand this. If the homeowner knew when the thief was coming, then they'd be ready and that thief wouldn't be able to enter, right? You must be ready all the time. The Son of Man will come when least expected. Will you be ready? If he comes at 9:01 this morning, are you going to be ready? Jesus' purpose in telling about his return is not to stimulate predictions or calculations about the date, but to warn us. The only safe choice is to obey him today. What do you have to do that? All you have to do is repent, to ask for forgiveness, to believe, to receive. That gift of salvation is yours. The Canaanites was given the gift of the land, but do you know that they didn't occupy all of it? That total land that they were given was like 300,000 square miles. But they only occupied 30,000. They only occupied 1/10 of what God gave them. So, like for us as Christians, we generally settle for way less than what God has promised. Many of us are still in the wilderness, and this is telling us today, as we read Matthew, that we need to be ready. They've been, oh, well, that's what Grandma read. Well, yeah, but each day we're getting closer. If you read in 2 Peter 1, as in the Israelites didn't occupy everything, they didn't take all that they could take. Same thing for us today. There's so much more than just asking, believing, and receiving. That's your first step. Then after that, then grow in the faith. If you feel like that you don't have enough faith, look at 2 Peter chapter 1. And this is talking about uh, giving diligence, giving all diligence, and adding to your faith virtue, to virtue knowledge, to knowledge self-control, to self-control perseverance, to perseverance godliness. It goes on and on and on. But He's called you. Grace and peace be multiplied to you in the knowledge of God and Jesus. As His divine power, we talked about power yesterday, has given to us all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of Him who called us by His glory and virtue. There is so much more than just in life than just doing the minimum. Don't settle for 1/10 of the gift that He has for you, because all of it's free. It's all free for those who believe. 2 Peter 1. Read that today. It's a good one. Psalms 30, I'm going to touch base on that real quick, 1 through 12. It says a song of the dedication of the temple. But look how that can just boost your day whenever you read it. Anytime you open the Bible, your day is, you're going to have a great day as far as being encouraged. I will exalt you, Lord, for you rescued me. You refused to let my enemies triumph over me. I cried to you for help, and you restored. You brought me up from the grave. You kept me from falling into the pit of death. You kept me from falling. He's put those guardrails up on that highway of life for you. And you might bump back and forth into him, but He's going to keep you still on that road. It says, look at 11. You have turned my mourning into joyful dancing. Not just mediocre time. It's a joyful dancing. You have taken away my clothes of mourning, and you clothed me with joy. What did we talk about in the devotion? When you get my devotion, when you get up in the morning, then you put on your garment of salvation. You're wearing His robe of righteousness. Put that on. Look in your closet, and you pull out those clothes of joy, and you put them on. In fact, put a sign in your closet. And this is how I'm dressing today. I'm clothed with joy, that I might sing praises to you and not be silent. Let's sing to Him all day. Jen, I know you're listening today. You're singing every day. I listened to a beautiful song this morning after I got up, and it just, oh man, it just permeated through my whole body. Oh Lord my God, I will give you thanks forever. You have a beautiful day today. Sing to Him, praise Him as you're wearing your clothes of joy and your robe of salvation. Go spread the word to somebody. Be that person that has been called to go, therefore, and speak the truth to somebody that needs you today.